I really wanted to uncover what it was that stopped me really ever feeling happy.
Okay.
Because I feel like that turns into other things. That's kind of what links back to SoulBank. I really worked on, tried to have more contribution. Everything was always about contribution to me. It was about connection. But I just fail at connecting properly or consistently connecting because my brain is so distracted. And I was deep down inside not feeling probably that worthy. And then that would reflect on other people.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of season 2 of Who on Earth. Now, I've had a little break while I went and did the Vipassana, 10 days in silence, and it was definitely a good upgrade, and I'm going to be doing a video just to detail that experience. But now we're back and we're ready to give you this next episode of Who on Earth, and it's with I've been hearing about this new studio that was using like this approach where it's like science and these esoteric sort of nurturing modalities like breathwork and yoga and meditation and bringing them together. Like, you remember Craig Seaton from episode 2 of season 1? He was working at this place called SoulBank, and also like my good friend Natalie Phillips and another friend called Nigel Meadows, that's not his word, Nigel Meadows, and they're such good facilitators. I thought, right, there's got to be a reason why they're being attracted to this place. So I reached out to the founder, Jamie Alaise, and asked if he'd come on the show and just let everybody know about his journey and what it is that SoulBank's all about. So he graciously did invite me down. It's like the nicest studio. It's like this old bank. It's like a cathedral. And I thought straight away, I'd be love to dance here. But I'll let Jamie tell you more about that. A little bit of an insight, like he almost ended up on The Apprentice. So that shows where he's like sort of come from to where he is now. It's quite a cool little shift. But we'll let Jamie do the talking. Now, before we put you on to Jamie and myself doing that episode, really, really want to stress how important it is if just a little like or a little share goes a long way to supporting me in the show. If you want to keep seeing mint guests like this and the other guys that we've had on, like if I've got to go and waste my time working, spending it all, just all that energy, you know the script where you're just wasting all your time on something you don't care about. If it's something you don't care about, I want to do this sort of stuff, share beautiful people. So those likes and shares help the popularity, and then that helps feed the show, and everything just snowballs from that. So I'd really appreciate it. And a little gift back to you. We've just got a new product on the Meditation with Michael store, and this one, Carolina Naturals. And I don't like using the spray deodorants. I used to smoke, so it's bad for your lungs anyway. You don't want that. And then I don't really like the roll-on ones when it's nasty ass chemicals going in your body as well. Like, your skin's basically a big mouth, so you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin. So she had these great cream deodorants, and there's loads of different scents. So good. So I ended up getting her on there. There's discounts as well if you like a good little cheap sort of come and try this. And then also the body butters that we've just got on as well. Like, my hands have never felt so soft, never smelt so good. So Carolina Naturals will be on the website. The links will be on the description for you if you want to go check out the Meditation with Michael store. Now, before we get on to the episode, you know I love him. I do so much work with him because of that. Good friend Joshua Obazuki has put on such a cool just environment for people to come down. So let me tell you a bit about TRANSMUTE Studio. It's a new season, but it's the same old sponsor, and that's TRANSMUTE Studio. Beautiful centre in the centre of Manchester, Northern Quarter. It's got loads of the old stuff like the African drumming, the African dance classes. They've got salsa now as well. They've got the beautiful Arignani, ceremonial ecstatic dance with wizardry from the show. But also, my alter ego, DJ Moksha, has made an appearance with his new ecstatic dance, Liberation. So, sound baths, Kundalini yoga, candlelit yoga, loads of beautiful events there. It's all about wellness, culture, creativity. What's going to do a better job of explaining it than my little mouth is going down to the socials, the website, and seeing it for yourself. So I'll put a link in the description, and you could maybe come float in one of them hammocks with myself. But for now, guys, enjoy the episode. Peace and love. Thank you for coming on the show, Jamie. I appreciate it in the lovely SoulBank studio.
Thank you.
It is beautiful.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah,
no. I appreciate
it. We're very lucky to have this space.
And we'll get there. But what I like to start with on Who on Earth is, for starters, where did you start?
With regards to teaching, or
I mean life. Where did it all begin for you?
In Kent,
Okay.
Down south, southerner, I suppose.
Down south.
Yeah. Started in Kent, grew up there. That was fun for me. Troublesome little soul, should we say.
How so?
I suppose when I was younger, I was brought up in an environment that was quite turbulent. My mother was poorly. She had some challenges around anorexia. And, with that comes the shift of the moods and everything that's attached to it, as we have now learned more and more about as the years have gone on. Grew up above a nightclub, which was fun.
Really? Yeah. Did you ever get down?
Yeah, actually, I did used to go down. It was funny because in Folkestone, it's kind of like a seaside town. So when I was a child, a long time ago, it's next to Dover, which most people know Dover ports. But Folkestone is actually where the Eurotunnel is, which is the easiest way for people to remember or know where it is. And it used to be a main port as well. So back then, there used to be something called the Sea Cat, and you go to and fro, and it was £1 to get to France and back.
Just £1.
Yeah. So Folkestone's like the closest part of England to France.
Okay.
So it's 22 miles. Kind of cool. Primary school in the playground, you could look out the playground and you could see France on a clear day.
Really?
Back then it was a thriving town and loads of energy, loads of European people coming across all the time, loads of money being spent in the town. And like any seaside town, it has like a main street, which is like where all your arcades are, and your nightclubs and your kebab shops. So yeah, I grew up there, above a nightclub. So that was kind of fun.
How old were you when you were over the nightclub?
I think I was about 4 when we moved there.
Right, okay.
And we left when I was about 10.
So you've been raving since the day?
100%. Yeah, it was all about the music. And I remember that one of the bedrooms was like really, really not soundproofed, like at all. And it was like you was in the club. And I remember when I was young, it was always like, can I please have that room? I want to have that room.
So you liked it then?
I just wanted to be in it. And it was fun. So I was in that bedroom a few times. But yeah, it was a unusual environment to grow up in. And I suppose in that space and a space of, a parent that's poorly and erratic at times, not through their own fault, but through the illness, which, is what it can do to the body and the mind, as we know. I think you learn to read the room, you learn to read the energy, know what mood you have, you're assessing, you're coming to, how it shifts. The same with the nightclub, the people. The whole environment was just very unusual, I suppose. Like if you were going to put it on, a bit of paper.
It's not a suburban house,
No, well, the thing is, like you had to walk through the nightclub entrance to get out of the flat.
Oh, so you literally had to go in.
Yeah, so like I always remember, like you'd walk down on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning after a night out, and it would literally be like the floor. I remember it was like this silvery, like commercial grade floor, with the flickers in it.
Okay, yeah.
And you walk down, there'd be like blood from fights. It was like, that's what it was. That's what, I mean, you can imagine like in Blackpool what the streets like.
Oh yeah, when you said the strip, I'm like Blackpool Strip.
It literally was. I mean, it was tiny, but that was the strip. And at the time, Folkestone was a really, really cool place to be. And, I loved it. It was random, but it made me kind of aware, I suppose.
It's not very sheltered, is it?
No, and there was always people in and out of our space. It was where everybody hung out, really, because it was my mum had me when she was 17.
Okay.
So she was very young, still trying to figure out life herself, at that age.
Couldn't imagine doing 17-year-old Michael.
Imagine that, having a child at that age. So it was an interesting growing up period, but fun. Loved music, got to hang out on that street as a child, so I'd finish school and hang out in the arcades, I suppose, from a very young age, from probably maybe 6 or something, I suppose.
That's quite young, isn't it?
Yeah. But back then it didn't ever seem as dangerous as it is now.
Okay.
Kids were always out and about everywhere, but I was probably out more than others, but that was okay. I didn't really want to be in in the house that much anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, that was where I started out. That was kind of fun. Very much into music at a very, very young age. Like when I lived there, I used to practice.
What kind of music?
I mean, God, back then, Prince.
Okay.
Prince, Michael Jackson. Janet Jackson, like Rhythm Nation. This was a while ago.
Yeah.
You're talking in the late 80s.
I mean, I love the old
Paula
school.
Abdul, that kind of stuff, when she was an amazing dancer. It was anything that had really cool rhythm. A huge amount of Bob Marley, really
Can't go
grew up
wrong with
that.
Bob.
Everything back then was all about, every room in every house was just thick with the clouds of weed, I suppose, because that's just what it was. It was on a seaside town, and there used to be something called the Wall that would go around the front, and in the summer it's just where everyone sat. Everyone sat, drank, smoked weed, all the people that were probably between the age of 20 to 60. It was just one of those kind of, it was actually, like, looking back now, it was probably quite a hippie town compared to most. We had places where, it was quite a, a lot of drugs, everything was very normal. It was a very raw environment.
But this was only until you were about 10, was it? And then did you say you moved?
Yeah, but then I suppose you're already immersed in it. You know everybody.
It's become normalised.
There's all certain people that are the main people that, you grew up around in the town. And
so you didn't move far?
No, I'd stay in town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just moved out of the nightclub.
You just went...
Mum wanted to get to a... Yeah. Just had that in my bedroom then. But yeah, it was fun because even at a young age, I'd be in nightclubs or when they were closed and stuff. And then my uncle actually took over that nightclub.
Oh, okay.
Which was kind of fun. And then, so that's where I started out. But I was just always, growing up in that environment, you just grow up, I suppose, with a certain mindset and in a protective state.
Okay, protective for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So it was very, there was always fights and everything everywhere. And just how it was. So
did that ever go into school life?
Definitely for me. I was, and as a child, I was, although I'm very, I'm very light skinned, but I think as a child, I'm half Libyan. So my surname, as I grew up, was Durat, which is a very foreign name. It was a very, very, very white town. So I think there was an element of people challenging around, your creed, your colour, where are you from, and there's the names that come with it. It was a very, very racist town. More of it through ignorance, I think. Yeah. I don't think it was actual, which I know is awful as well, but I'm saying I think it wasn't that people detested people that were, foreign or anything like that from anywhere, or it was just they didn't know or understand. So as I grew, I suppose there was a minority of us, or minority set crew, and we kind of gelled.
I was going to say, did you all come together?
We gelled together, and as one as many, you become stronger. So, some of my friends, they were, dual heritage. We were all just kind of a mixed bag, really. And
the outcasts.
Yeah, the outcasts. But all really into dancing.
Okay.
That evolved from that into hip-hop and R&B. So although we were a minority, we were kind of...
Well, didn't you say you used to rap?
Oh, yeah, well, something.
Were you playing about with it then?
Probably more just focusing on the dancing.
Okay.
Probably started to do that when I was like about 14, maybe 15.
Are we just dancing for fun, or is this something we start taking seriously?
No, I used to compete as well, which was kind of fun.
Was this like breakdancing or...?
More like swing, hip-hop, R&B style.
Okay.
So, your little handspring flips and stuff like that.
How were you?
Splits and...
Did you do all right?
I was meant to be good, apparently. Something like that.
For those who are watching, Jamie's now going to do a head spin.
Yeah, I think I need to practice a little bit for that one.
How was it competing then?
Yeah, only didn't do it loads, but we used to, as we got older. But competing was fine. I loved competing. I loved the adrenaline. I loved the, and I would go into like a little bit of body popping and even flip into a bit of Michael Jackson, like whatever the movement was, because it was all just it was just how could you perform and dance the best, right? But I think, as you know, then we used to go to clubs all around Kent, and we were out nearly every other night, and we'd always dance, and, you know, there'd be little battles against other crews. There was like a cool night in Gillingham. That was fun. But we just danced all the time. Literally, life was just dancing, really. And it was a good way. For me, it was kind of the first... I remember I'd practice for hours and hours, because I used to practice a lot. And then I'd always like lay on my floor and just be calm, let my body slow, because, you know, you'd be wet with sweat. It was very, very physical, very, you know, demanding.
Great little workout though.
Amazing. I had a great six pack. And I think that was probably when or now looking back, it was really when I was introducing mindfulness in a way into my life.
Okay,
because that would be the moment where you'd embrace maybe the feeling of the carpet on your hands as you were lay, and you'd feel your breath. You'd have a moment where you'd stare and you'd appreciate maybe just the colour on the wall and the change into the ceiling, the noises outside, and bordering into a form of meditation.
It's accidental meditation.
Yeah, and I'd always do that after I danced. And it's kind of like a grounding in a way. I'd always be lay because I couldn't stand.
When that hard,
but it kind of worked out. And yeah, I think, it's quite a beautiful thing looking back. It was always a moment for me of calmness. And the great thing about dancing was it was just mine. It was just me. And, you know, I embraced that in the home, I suppose. It was a nice way, because I would just kind of like get in, close my door and dance for 2 or 3 hours, really, just practice and practice.
You had the room to move then, yeah?
Yeah. The good thing about being above a nightclub is that the flat was massive.
Okay.
Because it was like...
Well, it's a nightclub, isn't it?
The size of a nightclub, because there was different floors and we were the only one. It was huge. So yeah, that was kind of cool. But yeah, I was in so much trouble as a child.
Go on and tell us a few stories.
I was just a rebel without cause. I had no fear, I don't think. And parenting was, you know, not for the want of probably trying, but just non-existent, really. It was hard because I had a stepdad and he'd try and parent me, but wasn't really able to or allowed to in a certain way. I think it was very difficult.
Sorry to interrupt. I'll just to move that just a bit more towards you.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah.
To me.
There we go. Yeah.
Moving around.
Go on.
Yeah, so I think it was probably just a bit challenging. And I was a challenging child, and, you know, everyone was very young as parents. So yeah, I think it was quite difficult for them. And it was a raw environment, and I just kind of cracked on my own, really. But that was okay.
And did it manifest any sort of specific behaviour patterns? Because people rebel in different ways.
Yeah, I think definitely as the journey's progressed, and, you know, you look at your inner child and you kind of, you know, talk to it in a way and figure out where the pain points were, what worked, what didn't, why are you who you are? You know, we get to that stage where we say we can reflect. Some people don't. Some people do it from a very young age and can be very conscious. I'd say I've only been more of a conscious being as time's gone on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the trouble was mainly fighting. I was very like old school morals.
Okay.
And back then it was all like, you know, we were very poor, really. We didn't really have much money. Like, we always had enough and had nice things because we cared for them. But, you know, I wouldn't say that we had much. And I think when you're in that position, all you kind of have is your word. And I suppose for me, it was all about, how do I become something? You know, you worry about your worth, and then if you're getting different, I suppose the pattern that came from it was worth, and it was kind of creating this being that could kind of stand on its own 2 feet.
Okay.
And what came from that was maybe I was used to a degree of physical domination over me, and therefore I was aware that was something that could control an environment.
Right.
So I probably became more of a physical dominating human being. So maybe that's why I would fight. But I was more kind of old school, so it was more about I always seemed to end up getting in fights when I was protecting another person. Right. It was rare that I ever started them, and I was always the little kid. So I always think that people thought I would be an easy target, but that never really played out for them so well.
So you were a bit handy then, were you? Did you have any training, or was it just?
Yeah, I used to train. I always trained in everything, and I was always quite strong, even though I was small.
So if you're going to do something,
I danced, so then I'd weight train, and then I'd kickbox, and then when I got to I moved to Manchester because I pretty much lost my marbles.
How so?
I moved out of home and everything. Eventually, I went and lived with my nan for quite some time, from the age of 12. She was a beautiful soul, just so loving and full of positive energy. And then probably when I got to about 15, I moved. I managed to get something agreed where I could go and live in this a hotel, which was like a B&B. It's like where people come out from after being in jail or whatever. They then kind of like a bed and breakfast style thing. Had some normal people there too, but I think, maybe like truckers and stuff like that. But it was one of those old school buildings that was, I don't know, maybe 8 rooms on each floor and then a bathroom at the end that was shared. It was, stuff sounds like it's out of a movie or something. But yeah, that was kind of what it was. And you have a little sink in your room. And yeah, I was 15, and at that time I'd been expelled from a few schools, and then I went to an expulsion school, and then they were like, there's no point you really being here, because I wasn't able to sit my exams. And then they managed to get it agreed where I could go and start a YTS scheme.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool. So then I went to become a hairdresser because it was the kind of job that I thought would be cool. It was, so much of my life was about vanity and how you looked, I think.
I don't think you're the only person to fall into that trap.
No, but I feel like it was a period, it was a time in life as well where it was big,
What age are we here?
I think it was always like that. I don't know whether it was maybe because I focused so much on dance. That dance is always and still is.
It's very much
and the vanity, right? The pristine sneakers, the clothing. It was, and like I said, we didn't have a lot. So what we did have
meant a lot to you.
And looked after it. Took pride in it. It was always pristine as a child. The one thing is, my mum took a lot of care in making sure that everything was pristine.
So you're always
probably part of her OCD, to be fair, as well, and the after effects that come with anorexia and everything. You do.
I mean, it's a form of control, isn't it?
It is, yeah. You control what's around you and what you can control. And 100% it is part of that. And we learn now, as time goes on, that it's highly linked into ADHD and autism and everything like that. It's a real kind of. Well, I say we learn. There are more studies coming out, but I'm also really starting to see significant patterns through my life and meeting different people of where that plays out. I'm just going to tighten this up because it seems to be.
Is it slowly losing?
It's starting to kind of.
I'll do this just so people know.
Want to give me a little hug. Is what it's doing.
I do remember watching the Nicky Cohen episode, and it's just slowly going down, slowly going down. Is that nice and tight now?
Yes.
How are we doing?
Okay. Yeah. Where were we?
So you were saying about the OCD and how it's a form of control.
So, I think...
Little friend.
Little fire.
Yeah, little fire friend.
Yeah, I think the OCD and keeping everything pristine and just making the most and looking after what we had was really important. So that was a big part of my life. And it still played out in today, to be fair, for me. People joke about it.
I think it's when you bring that conscious awareness to a behaviour pattern and it's not controlling you mindlessly, you actually can be like, you know what? This isn't necessarily a negative.
And I think that's just so important. For me, there's so much trauma from my younger years, which trauma's relevant. So it's kind of somebody can have a cut fall on their foot, and that can be more traumatic to them than
it's perspective, isn't it?
Being in the middle of a battle or whatever else is going on.
Well, you could have a baby who can't have its ice cream, and that's the end of the world.
Exactly, yeah.
Whereas so you could have a dude in the war who...
I'm not saying it's bad, but on paper it'd be deemed as that. And I think, and I'm not saying that's how I feel, but I feel that everything happens for a reason. And that was part of, that gave me the momentum, the energy and everything to be able to do. So I'm really grateful for my past. I think that's what I want to do.
Were you always grateful? Or was there any resentment?
I think you're I think there's a wiring to us that's like, why? You know, what did I do? And I think the worthlessness coming back into that, I think that can always play out in a huge way. I think for so many of us at different times in our life, whether it be through relationships, you know, often people will leave people, you don't really know why. It can be through somebody in a family, cutting somebody off. There's so many different things that can make people feel uncertain, incapable, because they don't know what they've done, or they don't feel that they're just good enough, you know. And I think that at that moment and in that time, we're a degree, you know, we can be unconscious in a way, and there is that resentment that you mentioned. You can feel kind of that disdain or that uncomfortable feeling against that person because you want to know. And we want to, sometimes because we want to justify, we want to defend, maybe it was our fault and we know that deep down inside.
Well, I mean, you might want to figure out how to avoid it in the future. Yeah. Tell me why, so I can make sure this doesn't happen again. And I think that's less often the case, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. I think most people are, you know, the world enjoys being more unconscious at this minute in time. Enjoys is the wrong phrase. Enjoys the wrong phrase. They actually seem to enjoy it more. I think actually when they become more conscious and become more aware, and, you know, that's linking into meditation. And when you become to get that time to look inward and be calm, you realize that a lot of all of this other stuff in this unconscious being that we can sit in just means nothing and it doesn't make us happy. And I think I'm grateful for a lot of the challenges that I had and that I've had and that I have, because without them, I definitely wouldn't have, you know, I do have an abundance of love, energy, everything. There isn't much that I don't have. So I'm really, really fortunate. And I do believe that if it wasn't for the madness that was, that I definitely wouldn't have it. So, you know, I way rather really, I love to learn. So
has it always been that way?
Yeah. I'm extremely hyperactive. So, you know, I've always got 3 or 4 conversations going on in my head at once, whenever.
I'm having to stop myself and going, me too, me too.
and it just is what it is. And people around me have learned to accept it as time goes on. And I think in that you've always got all these different voices saying all different things and different conversations. And I sound nuts now as I'm saying it, but this is generally...
Well, have you heard of IFS?
Yes.
The therapeutic, that's all that is. You've got, clearly you channel energy quite intensely, which gives all these different parts a loud voice, in my opinion. Yeah. From my own experience, but it seems like something I can relate to.
I think you're right. I think, but I'm grateful for the madness that is. It's difficult for people that are around me because I'm either in probably people talking to me and I seem to be in 6 or 4 conversations in my own head and I can become quite distant.
Okay.
Or I'm completely immersed. And I think the thing that I love about teaching is that when I teach, and it's the same as when I dance, and it's probably why I love dancing so much back then, that's all that's there. It's all that exists for that moment. All of my emotions, all of the chemicals being released in my body are all finely tuned into one thing. I mean, when I do that, it feels amazing. And
you're fully present, aren't you then? You're fully with the moment rather than this uncertainty of, I would rather be there or I wish I was there again.
100%. And I can be like that in conversation with certain people as well, where it's just so deep, you know, but I struggle with superficial. I struggle with that.
Well, you're going to do well on Who on Earth then, because so do we. That's what I love it, man. Like, because I forget sometimes that is sort of the way things are. Everything's very superficial, conversations, interactions, connections, whereas the people I'm around on a constant basis, it's deep. Yeah. And we're talking about stuff that to me really is scratching deeper and deeper each time. And that's what enriches the experience. So that's what I want Who on Earth to be like. Yeah. So we've been in the vanity, the dancing. Where do we go from there?
There was lots of madness, lots of court cases and whatever else and all that stuff always from fighting.
So it's always a fight?
Fighting, yeah. Used to steal a lot of cars.
Oh, a bit of Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah, there was a lot of that when I was young. It was very different back then.
What was that for? Was that for the thrill of it?
I think I literally just got to a stage where I was just on self-destruct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was, I'd been in a serious relationship that I think I felt a disconnect maybe at home, which I don't think I did, hugely so. So it meant that my partners become, they were extremely important to me.
Almost filling that hole.
Yeah, when I was young. So a relationship meant so much more to me than it may do to someone else, and I appreciate there's lots of other people that would have felt the same way. But I just generally was always on self-destruct. And there's even an element of me thinking that, I think it's something I always just tame. I think it's very different now. I think most people see me as a very calm, very, very stable individual, but there's always like madness inside that, I suppose. There's always a storm brewing, and it's just about controlling. And I think it's because I grew up in chaos. So the challenge is I'm comfortable in chaos, which is why I have lots of different companies and lots of things going all the time, and people that are around me that care for me will be like, well, why are you doing that? And why are you doing that? And it's like, this is what calms me, it slows me. But most people would see all that stress and that
would overwhelm them. To you, it's actually
that's the opposite. It's like it's slowing my brain a little bit, if anything. And yeah, I think there was lots of court cases, different things fighting. Then I thought, I'm going to move away.
Okay, how old are we now?
I was 17.
Okay, so this is a lot. This is a lot. Yeah, we're not even into the 20s yet.
No, so I decided that I was going to move away, and I thought, I'm just done.
Just had a moment and said,
yeah, just like some stuff was kicking off, and some different people were threatening different things and all this, and I was like, I just can't be bothered. I'm going to deal with them in whatever way I need to, and then I'm just out. And my stepdad was from Manchester, so literally within 3 days, I was just like, I'm out, I'm going. Clear my head, and then I'll figure out what it is, and then go back and deal with it over time. Moved up here.
Whereabouts did you move?
Sale Mall.
Sale, yeah,
with my family, yeah. So
I lived in Sale for a little while myself, Springfield Road.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's like near the centre, right? So, yeah, we was over near Wythenshawe, which was... my stepdad's family were really good to me and looked after me and brought me in, very warm, loving people. Interesting, because I was still in that frame of mind where I was still pretty mental, I suppose. I'd been taking lots of steroids and different things and just everything. I didn't have any kind of rule in any way, shape or form in my life or anything that I did. I was just a very aggressive being. But I was very, very loyal and protective over the people that were close to me.
Well, it sounds like those parts of you, coming back to it at first, are actually being aggressive because they're just trying to protect the more vulnerable parts that never seemed to get it when you needed it.
100%. And then I suppose I was so protective over people because maybe at times I felt so vulnerable. And then I could kind of see me maybe in them in those moments is kind of how I believe is the truth of it, and why I've got this kind of moral justice kind of system. And, I still struggle with that today. And
there's nothing wrong with protecting people as long as we're pure of heart.
No, it just depends how you do it.
Exactly.
Right? It's just a grown-up and professional.
Can be more skillful rather than kicking someone's head in.
So moved up here, got involved in loads of trouble.
Obviously. Manchester's not the place to go if you try to avoid trouble.
Yeah, it's funny actually because you guys know Sophie Ray, the yoga teacher, like she always says, like everywhere I go, there I am. And she only said that to me not so long ago, and I was like, oh, that's the saying. I would always say, I got up here and I realised it was me. And actually, the saying is, everywhere I go, there I am. And you can't run away from yourself.
Can't run away from the self.
So, I ended up mixed up with all the biggest gangs, I suppose, that were up here at the time, and that was in the 90s when Gunchester was becoming what it was in its big way. It was
like Quality Street and all that sort of.
No, most of that had passed, I'd say then. It was other people. But I won't
no need to go into details.
But yeah, it was a pretty intense time.
Yeah.
And I had some more challenges in that period, bigger court cases, probably more serious stuff.
Okay.
Always fighting. Same stuff. Nothing like. And the fighting was always with people that were from that ilk. So it wasn't like...
It's not like you're mugging somebody in the street.
No, nothing like that. Never involved, because the morals, I mean, it was always the opposite.
Yeah, it was an honourable fight.
It was like you'd see like someone else go to steal from someone. That would be the problem. That's where it would kick off.
Justified.
Yeah, it's not justified, but that is how that's the truth. Makes me not feel as bad. But no, that's what it was. And then, yeah, I had a moment when I was 21. I nearly, I looked at potentially I was going to jail for a very long time.
Okay.
Kind of like a life change movement. And I always said if I didn't, that would be the moment where things would change. And I didn't. And that's when things started to change.
So how did they change?
I didn't take drugs again. I stopped smoking. I smoked a little bit like in between now and then, but like tiny amounts when I was really stressed. But I just kind of stopped nearly everything and just decided I would take a different path. That took a while because my friend groups were still a lot of the same.
So it wasn't overnight?
No, it probably took me about 3 years, I'd say. So like from the age of 21 to like 24, I started to get a proper job. I wanted to... It's sort of funny. The thing is, actually, to keep out of court, I kind of needed a job. So when I went to court, I looked like a more responsible human being. So I went and got a job, and then I started kind of...
Did jail really scare you then? It prompted you to make such a change?
Yeah, I think it was more just a moment, a tipping moment for me.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that it scared me at the time. I actually felt like... I think I was so kind of... Probably just fed up with myself.
You wanted
because I was just a ball of fire, and it was like maybe that's what I was meant to do. Maybe, maybe that was safer for everyone else. And it wasn't even just it wasn't really just to do with the fighting. I was just so unhealthy in like my relationships, and I was just not a nice person. I was so selfish, so ego driven. All of the things that are linked, I suppose, into self-worth. I didn't have that, so I went to grab onto every single other thing that there was apart from that would try and make me have some worth, but I was just doing it in completely the wrong way.
It wasn't the most skillful.
None of those things gave me any worth. If anything, they made me feel even worse about myself. So it's like, what an idiot.
Yeah.
Looking back now, if I could...
I'm sure many of us can... I know I can relate to that. You're doing your best with what you had in the moment.
Yeah.
You now got a job?
Yes, got a job, started working...
What was the job, by the way?
So the first one actually was looking after kids.
Okay.
So childcare. I was always had probably because I was still a child mentally. But yeah, I worked in a nursery looking after kids. It was like people always used to say how good I was with kids.
I mean, it does sound very responsible.
Yeah.
Can't put him in jail.
I suppose there's also been an element that like in your brain, it's like I've always believed in, like it's act as if, change the environment, change the concept, that will change and slowly permeate, go into who you are and change who you are. And I really, really, really wanted to be a different person.
Okay.
I really didn't want to be that person anymore. I was sick of it. I was sick of me in that sense.
I think it's important as well. I just want to stress on it. It wasn't overnight. It was 3 years. So this is a process.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely a process. And then I went to work in a call center, and at this time I was on no money or anything like that. So I was living with my friends at their house. We were sharing like a council house, and so still really didn't have anything. And then, then it just progressed from there, really. I used all of that energy and focus on work. I was like, I'm going to kind of make something of myself.
Well, you seem like someone, when you put your mind to it, it's not half-assed. A bit like myself, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly and we're going to commit.
Yeah. And, like we say, there's 4 or 5 conversations going on, right? So if they're all hyper-focused into one area, it can be that laser focus can be quite powerful.
Yeah, I mean, once you learn how to channel that energy, that's going to then manifest what you want rather than being scattered.
And sales was all about, if we go all the way back, sales came to me as a natural thing.
Okay.
Because it was all controlling, right?
Controlling the conversation to manipulate it to go the way you want. I mean, I used to do sales, just so you know.
And from the environment that I was in, the aim was always to control the situation to prevent it going wrong. So it was a natural thing that was bred into me. And it was a very natural thing. So it actually didn't even feel like I was selling and I would always, and this was the main difference, because I was the highest performer like straight away of like 100 odd people within like 4 weeks. It was just natural.
It's natural.
And I've grown up on the markets. My uncle used to own one of the biggest markets in the South. So as a kid, I was on the markets. You know, there's so much more to the story, but obviously we've only got a certain amount of time. And get a bit dry.
We can be here for a day.
No,
it's okay.
3 years on. So it was just so natural. But the difference is, like, I would only sell it if I believed in it. And the reality is I'd find the bits that worked and made sense. So I wasn't like into getting people to get it. It was like, well, does it matter? I'd happily go, this isn't for you.
You wouldn't blind somebody.
No, and I think that was the difference. And people be like, how are you getting all these deals, but you're not doing it? Because I'm like, if it doesn't make sense, I move on to something that does make sense for.
One thing I got told was a good salesperson is actually just somebody who has a good product, who is a good person.
Yeah.
And that's it. And people...
And you match it up.
People can smell when you're trying to take the piss.
Yeah, and for me, I think it was so important to me because I was always after, you know, like a relationship or whatever, where I could kind of... It could maybe make me feel safe, or, you know, I was always just trying to make me feel different, I suppose.
Okay.
I didn't feel brilliant. And yeah, I think the job was the first thing I could really like zone in and get into.
And if you've got this thing about self-worth and you're coming top of the class, that must have been a bit of a
brilliant
buzz.
Dopamine. You know,
money and
coffee,
respect.
Dopamine. Sales, dopamine. It's like I had to get another sale, so I got another. Okay. My reward system would be
that was your hit.
Yeah, you know. And yeah, it was great fun. I loved that, and everything was just about work. And then, you know, I was there for a while, growing teams, and then I got promoted. I met my wife there.
Okay.
And, you know, that was a
big, like mid-20s
growth
now.
thing. I was like 24, but at that time, just before that, I had left my partner, who I'd been with for a very short time, and she was pregnant.
Okay.
And yeah, it was, but beyond that point, things stabled out, I suppose, with regards to, it was less about relationships and more just focusing on me. But yeah, she, my ex-partner at that time, gave birth to my daughter, who's now 22.
Okay. So that must have been a bit of I need to step up moment as well.
Yeah, probably, and an anchoring moment, because then things just became more secure from a relationship point of view and more of a foundation. So yeah, at that point I got married. And that was, you know, back then. And I suppose after that, all the focus was really about work and building something for myself, as in for me, for my own self-worth, I suppose. So I felt okay about it, and I felt competent in all these different things. And yeah, I was worked really hard, but quite fortunate. I was in the right place at the right time. Or maybe I wasn't, and maybe I just worked really hard, who knows. But yeah,
it's probably a bit of both,
I grew and grew in those roles, and I ended up by the end of it, and by my final role, I suppose, which I call my role, which I stopped kind of like in 2016, you know, we had just below about 1,000 staff.
Okay.
In the company, CEO, you know, at a decent size, really responsible for big structures, very, very serious person.
I was going to say, you've gone from this life of over the club.
Three-piece suit kind of every day.
How was it for you doing that, the transition? Did it come naturally?
It was all about the next thing for me. So it was all about the next car. It was about the next pay rise. It was dopamine chasing the whole time. It was all about dopamine chasing. It's funny because when I look back, and even at the time, I started to realize for me, it was all about the next step. It was all about what's next, but it was all about the targets. It was less about money for me.
Okay.
I will say the money came from it, but it was just a target. It was about achieving something.
It was more the goal hitting.
Yeah, but it became like, I loved coaching more than anything. The thing that I loved in that role was coaching people. You know, we had like the apprenticeships when they started. We had more apprenticeships as a private company than anybody else in the north of England. We had like 90 odd. And I loved that because there was kids that were same as me off the estate, and then, you know, we were training them up, and loads of them ended up with really good jobs and ended up, you know, leaving us, which is brilliant because then it meant they were getting a better job, you know, bigger job. And
you're giving people a chance.
That's the bit I loved more than anything. And I realised more as time went on, and actually the rest of it just became really, it was weird because there's two moments probably for me that stand out more than anything while we're talking about this I suppose, my progression or my pace or whatever happened. And there was two moments. There was a moment for me when I was still wrapped up in let's call it a bit of a gang culture thing, or however you want to call it. And there was an eventful evening, should we say. Things happen in groups and fights, etc., and different things. And I remember looking around, and at a point kind of no one was left really, other than one of my friends. Everyone else had kind of pretty much run off.
Okay.
We was in the middle, and these guys were, much older, serious kids. And
so it's a tasty situation.
Me and my other friend, we were still there, and we were still kind of however, battling or whatever else it was. And I remember after that thinking, loads of them had got out of the way because they didn't really want to be involved. And I remember just thinking, that was a moment for me where I was it made me realise that no matter how big people's names are, or who they are, or whatever else it is, everyone's just a human. And I grew up, I suppose, with this fear and trying to understand these people and wanting to replicate so much of what they were, wanting to build this bravado, this worth, self-sense of wanting to be worthy to these people. And that's probably why I always did what I did and wanted to be strong and fearless and everything that it was, this alpha, this what I believed at the time was a masculine human being, which now I realise is not. And that was a big moment for me, because from a fear point of view and I'm not saying we all have fear about all different things. I'm really scared of getting on a plane. Loads of fear with that. But it made me look at people in a different way, because I thought, this story and these names and these myths that people talk about, if at 20 you can be stood there in a position where within moments you can become similar or the same, we're all just the same. The only thing that divides us is whether we believe in ourselves enough, whether we have enough fear or trauma to drive and stimulate where we've got to get to. And the fear of another human being, the awareness and the truth of who that being is in whatever situation we're in. When you watch people when they fight in the ring, whatever it is, and it's the same in life. It's not just a physical thing. This is also an emotional thing. And I think that was the same with the job roles. It was started right at the bottom, and it was always, you couldn't do that, or you're lucky, or whatever else. It's luck can only happen so many times.
And then it's a pattern of luck. How does that work
so
out?
To get from that and being on whatever it was to highest top percentage paid in the country or whatever, into these different roles and these different things, it just shows that we're just all the same, right? Because I'm not special. I'm just focused and driven and relentless and can't turn my brain off. So it's we can all do whatever we want.
Everyone's got their own genius.
Everyone's got and everyone's got the same ability. I literally am not special. So it's I started to see a pattern of realising, but that then removed the power of other people over me.
How did that feel? Because it sounds like
weird.
something you've lived under. Yeah.
Unnerving, I'm going to say.
Okay.
It's it's weird because there's this structure in society, right? And I don't have that. I just don't have it. I don't have any fear of anybody or anything. I just don't. Don't get me wrong, I fear things. You drop me in the middle of a war zone, I'm going to be scared.
Put you on a plane and...
but I'll be aware that human beings are human beings, and we all have the ability to do. There's miraculous and amazing people out there, and within reason, because there's genetics and different things. I can't do anything, but I'm saying within reason, there's a lot that we can just all do. And I just found that amazing. I didn't find it amazing for me. I actually found it amazing in life.
Well, it's inspiring, isn't it?
I was wow.
It's not as limiting anymore.
No. And people would say, oh, it's amazing that you do. And I'd be I'm just we can all do this. That was my excitement.
I think that's what it is. I can see it and you're I'm doing it. Yeah. You definitely could.
And people, it was always, you can't do that. You can't do that. It's oh God, for every can, there's a can.
Yeah.
It's cans in it. So it's how can we, and I was just and people just used to laugh, especially, family and at home, it'd be like, it just got to a point where there wasn't much that I wouldn't try and do. Because people are always like, there's this mythical madness to anything that people do. And I get why people do that. They do that because they're trying to protect who they are and what they do. And people want to believe what they do is magical and mythical. And some of it is, right? But it's not all. It's like, we'd be way better if we all just shared. And we all embraced in it, and we all like loved it, and we all, that's for me. That was always the thing, and I've always tried to be. I think I've always generally been quite open, where other people will be quite secretive about things and want to keep things to themselves. Like, that's not for me.
I resonate so much.
And people will be like, "Oh, well, maybe it's that you've. Well, why are you giving that to them? And then, well, why is that?" And it's like, well, why not? I just don't care. Like, nothing's mine. It's just ours. The more people that can enjoy something, the better.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a weird thing for people to comprehend, I think, at times.
I think it's that separation, isn't it? That separation, like, I am not you, therefore I need to be higher than you, so I'm safer than you, and I've got more power than you, and it's...
And I get it, because that's probably all I ever did.
It's survival.
When I was younger, but those moments, there was that moment, and there was a moment when I'd probably like reached a high position within a career. And there was a moment where then I thought, well, I've managed to do this. And, I was earning more money than I knew what to do with. And I was probably the most unhappy I'd ever been in my life. I was literally just like, hit a wall.
So how old were we when we hit that wall? Ish.
Probably about 35, 36. Okay. Yeah. And I think I just realised it was like, what was the point? And that was a really difficult moment for me. That was, not like boo-hoo, because obviously I had an abundance of things.
Yeah.
But it's so hard because I always thought, as often people do, oh, well, that money will change this and that will change this. And it becomes in our country, it's such a thing that it's all about our next step and what we can earn and what we can get.
It's future salvation, isn't it?
100%, but it's just so not true. It's so not true. Once we've got enough to live, and don't get me wrong, I have nice things, so I'm lucky. And would I feel different about it if I didn't? Well, if I didn't, I'd go and work harder and I'd get more nice things.
But you've also been, I didn't. So
I got here with a rucksack.
Yeah, exactly.
So Michael's the name, meditation is the game, and Meditation with Michael has now launched its very own website. Everything I'm doing is going to be on there. From meditation classes, which you can join in person, catch up if you missed one, or just join online from the comfort of your own home. One-to-one sessions. We've got loads of freebies like the chakra meditations, and we've also got a new 10-day beginners course. So if you really want to build that strong foundation, I've suffered with anxiety, depression, suicidal tendencies. I've lost family members. I've been an addict, unhealthy relationships coming out my ears. Meditation was the panacea. Learning how to sit with any sensation that arises really just helps you to master that patience, and those who master patience, well, they master everything else. So I want to pass that on. It is my purpose to alleviate my own suffering, show others how to do the same, and we can all live more peacefully. It sounds all right, that, doesn't it? So this website is a lovely little hub for you to find everything I'm doing, from the ecstatic dances to the floating meditation journeys. I'll put a link in the description. Go check out meditationwithmichael.co.uk and awaken the power within. Peace and love, guys.
Yeah, so 35, 36, just hit a wall. It was strange because it was at a time where people would say that I was in abundance, and I think people, I was saying that people focus so much on once you have money, you get this, and I've always been very much, well, once I get there, which is part of the very specific, I suppose, the ADHD traits in people. Which more recently I've been assessed.
Okay.
Just about a year and a half ago. It's a common thing now. I think it's thrown about quite a lot at the minute, isn't it? So this was probably just before it got really, really popular, I think. I wouldn't say popular, but it's kind of how it feels. But
I mean, we are in a very overstimulated society, which is fighting for your attention from every TV to phone. So I'm not surprised that a lot of people are.
It's hard what's traits and what's been, what's nurtured and
condition.
nature, right?
Yeah.
It's a hard one. But yeah, I got assessed by a psychiatrist, and then typical me, didn't trust them, had another one, and then didn't trust them, and then had another one. So I had 3 of them in the end.
Right, so we've got it confirmed.
Apparently. But it's like very, very hyperactive, which fits into everything I've said. And the reason why when I used to work in these call centres, we'd have 50 campaigns. So we'd have, big brands, big corporate blue chip brands, and you'd have one there, and they'd all be different.
Okay.
All with different targets.
So
you can imagine the reward system for that, right? Everyone's got to hit a target every day, and there'd be like, 600 people, and there'd be all these different mini campaigns. You've got to make sure everything performs. And that was kind of, I think that whole thing like really got me through, so I'm really grateful for that. And the pressure, it was just insane, but I loved it.
Do you thrive under pressure then?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I'd say so.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it maybe focuses you more?
Yeah, and I think, it stimulates the reward system, right? I think it's
the more what's the word? Jeopardy? It's not quite the word I'm looking for, but the more the consequence isn't great, the more we're like, right, the pressure is higher and we're more focused on it.
And I think a lot of people will say that I don't really get stressed. They'll always say, they're calm, but I don't think, they just don't, it's like I said earlier, they just don't know what's inside me.
Yeah.
And literally the inside is like this, it's like a bee nest going off of madness and tornadoes, but I've just learned to kind of harness it, I suppose.
So we've hit the wall.
Hit the wall. It was really difficult. Like I said, no boohoo, because I was in a place of abundance, but it was like, well, what's next? I think that was the thing.
Okay.
It was like, okay, what am I going to do next? Because beyond this, it's kind of, I don't know.
I think a lot of successful people, they hit that. Oh, I hit the thing I never thought I'd really.
I think that was the thing. I'd always set my goals quite high, which then people felt probably were unrealistic. But then I'd achieve them. And not meaning to sound like a dick, but that's kind of like what happened.
That's what's happened.
And it'd be like, right, that. And even I got to the point where I was like, shit. I didn't think I'd actually get that. Do you know what I mean?
Check me out.
My aim was like, I want to get a terrace house. And then it was like, it was just insane, into a massive house and whatever else and all that stuff and the supercars and all that jazz. And it was just like, then it just became normal. And it was just beige. It was boring.
Well, it's like we said, the superficial doesn't touch the depth of the soul compared to that.
It literally did nothing. So then I started opening. There was another fun story. And I went for the Apprentice.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So series 4.
Okay.
And that was fun because it was 42,000 applicants and I got selected. So I was one of the 14 selected for the show.
Okay.
So I still got the contract, which is kind of fun. But I chose not to go on it.
Right.
Which I think they were a bit shocked at because they were like, this doesn't
happen. Usually happen.
People don't do that. Yeah. But at the time, I'd then been offered another job. And the contract for The Apprentice was 12 months. So this is when you used to work for Alan Sugar when you won. And the contract was like an amount of money. You got it for a year. And I was like, this isn't a great deal, really.
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't in my head, because I was so egotistical and focused on me at the time. I was about 27 then.
Okay.
At that time. So I was very focused. I was still, when you're in that sales environment, you do just become quite an ugly being, to be fair. I was quite good at coaching people and like nurturing people, and I was very nice to my staff. Like, I don't really have many staff over the years of lots of groups that aren't like quite kind or like say hello, and I wasn't like demonic in that sense. But I felt like a very like ugly, grotesque person, because it was all about, everything was, because of how I'd been brought up and we had nothing, I suppose, it was focused on the next car, the next thing. It was just insipid, wet mess, really. And I notice it more than what I talk about it. So as we talk about it now and I go through it, it's like, ugh, how lame's that? But cars is slightly different, because I always loved cars as a kid. Always. My uncle bought and sold second-hand cars when I was a kid, and I'd help him with them. Always loved cars. So cars is like the one thing I will always separate from my period of like,
not everything. You have to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like all about money and nothing else. It's like cars were the one thing that I'd always separate because
you can enjoy the material.
Well, I can't. Yeah, of course you can, but I think there's limits, right?
Depends the energy behind how much it means to you and what's going into why you've got it.
Yeah, and getting into a point where it's just about competition. And I think, you know what, that's the dangerous space. And I watched a lot of people in that space, very, very wealthy people. And it's like that some of them were such beautiful people and you just didn't get to see their beauty.
Okay.
Because, you know, it was surrounded by that.
Well, everything has
and
a
it was
shadow.
like, but deep down inside, you know, I'd have some deep conversations and I'd be like, what an amazing human being and what an ability that they had. And even I remember when I was like back involved in the other stuff, I watched these people and how they'd operate their businesses, which weren't businesses, by the way. And I'd be like, if you ran a business, you'd be bloody amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what are you doing with your life? And that's kind of like the thing. And we've all got it in there somewhere, right? It's in there. It's just harnessing it. It's just looking inward, bringing it out in the right way.
I think it's aligning it with your purpose.
Yeah, 100%. But then it's understanding the difference between, when you're in that space and you're very unconscious, it's understanding what the difference is between a purpose and a goal. You know, because someone would say my purpose is, you know, to get a house. My purpose is to have a car and to have enough money. Well, no, your purpose actually, or your human need, is certainty. No, you want certainty in your life. Now, you start saying certainty, you do things differently. It's no longer about the size of a house. It's about creating certainty and safety for your family or for you. And
I imagine the goals get smaller and smaller because that doesn't need this grandiose.
And it's not goals, is it? It is human needs. And back to the point that after I left that, you know, I started coaching things like human needs and going on lots of Tony Robbins seminars. And I love Tony Robbins. And I know some of it's really cheesy and a bit hardcore, but it's like, I've always been able to take from things what means something to me.
You take the lessons.
I don't need to take the whole thing. I'll just take the little bits. And
so we've now decided that we've hit this wall, we've gone somewhere else, and you've started to do talks.
I started to, open up small companies in things that I loved. Okay. My intention was my intention was to have a day where I would, I'd start in my own restaurant and have some food, or I'd go to my own gym, then I go to a restaurant and I go and get my head shaved, and then I might go and get a suit made, and then, I go and get one of my tattoos, and the whole thing was all about that at that point. So it was all, then I had a few companies, or a lot of companies.
Okay.
Made some really bad decisions, invested in some bad spaces, had some challenges around business partners, and just, I think I was just lost, is the truth. I think I knew that before I had, I didn't want. I knew that it didn't fulfill me, but I don't think I'd actually worked out a strategy to what I truly wanted. I think I've been really, really good at coaching other people to get them to where they wanted to be. But I felt like every time I tried something, I just didn't feel fulfilled.
Okay.
It was an interesting phase. But then I did all these businesses, and then one of them went very wrong with a business partner. And at that point, then I was made bankrupt.
Okay. How was that for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. It was actually quite cleansing.
That was the thought I had. So most people are like, oh my God. And it's like, I was hitting rock bottom.
I don't care, right? And this is the thing. It's like, don't get me wrong. I do care. Of course I care. Otherwise, but I generally, I'll wear nice clothes for me because I want to feel good. And I believe the way that you put yourself together is how you feel. And I want to feel good. And I will care because I care, I suppose, about what people see, and I have social media. So there's always a degree of what I call significance. There's always a degree of my own significance coming out where it's like, I do want to be this.
You're allowed to express yourself.
Of course you are. But I'm saying there's a balance, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I think, I didn't care too much about it. I was like, right, I'm very linear. So I'm like, what's the best thing to do in this situation? Best thing is to do that. I'm not going to pay all that off for someone. I'm not going to, because what happens is when you're in a business, through business it happened. Personally, my finances were great, but in a business, if you do it and there's an issue, either you both pay it or you don't. They didn't want to pay it. So I was like, well, I'm not going to pay it. And I think they probably expected that I would. And I was like, no, I'm not. It's back to my old morals thing. And I just slammed it and I went, right, I'm going to do that. I'll just strip everything back and I'll just start again.
Yeah.
And it's quite refreshing because I just thought, I don't care, actually. And it was nice to kind of not have all of that pressure for a period, because I'd always had these massive payrolls and everything going on. No one, like through the process, no one was like hurt. Because the only people that were owed money were like loans for big banks and companies, like all individual people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Morally, because they all got paid. All that stuff was done. It was just like, the government, should we say. So,
which are such nice people, so I don't know.
Love them. Absolutely love giving them. And obviously, I'd given them a degree of money with my tax in the years before.
You've earned it.
Yeah, I was like, I'm having a break, mate. So, so it was quite freeing. There were some challenging periods in that because I lost my nan.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's a bit of a difficult one. In that period, which was COVID. And it was kind of hard because I was dealing with all of the bankruptcy calls, all of that stuff, trying to make sure that I could keep the family home. And all of that happened at once. So that was quite a difficult period. But I think when you're in those stages, for me, it's like that's when I really become me.
Okay.
So if there's the worst situation in the world happening, I'd often say like I'm probably one of the better people to have around you, because that's when I can deal with things and cope. Probably in an unhealthy way quite often, because I'll suppress everything that exists in life. Every tiny piece of love and everything. I'll suppress everything, but I'll become so practical and pragmatic in my approach. And that's what happened. And then I started to build up some businesses again, managed to keep some of the businesses off the back of after the bankruptcy. Because at the time that happened, if you had a business and obviously it wasn't making any money or doing anything, it was kind of okay. It would just not. They only want things that are worth money when that happens. So if it's not making money, and obviously there wasn't a lot in that process as it was. So then after that, I just rebuilt everything. Kind of found it fun. It was kind of like a challenge, and built everything back up to be honest with you, most of it was bigger and better than it was before. Because I was starting from no ego.
Okay.
So like employing people in certain positions, all this thing, I just kind of like stripped everything back because I had to.
So as a person, we sound like we're growing as well.
Yeah, it was the biggest growth point for me. And, there were some challenging periods that happened in it personally as well that I think, changed concept and viewpoint on different things, which I won't go into. But I think, it was a very, very difficult period. And I think...
even losing a loved one like that, he said how lovely she was. And I suppose when you've had that chaotic start to have somebody like that.
Yeah, I think when you have that person who's always kind of like to be fair to me, it's like the rest of my family were lovely as well, but she was like always the one that was the most stable one for me.
So it probably rocked your whole, almost like existential crisis sort of moment even.
And I also think that, that's where the kind elements or the bits that always trying to fight to get out of me, I always believe that's where they came from.
Okay.
So... can't talk about that too much.
Oh, that's okay.
Probably not grieve that one yet. And I think, do we ever? I think
it's a process again, like everything.
Building the new businesses was exciting. It was fun. I worked, pretty much every day through COVID. But from home, I had to go out because we were doing some bits of work and stuff that we had to. It was all to do with like will writing and stuff like that back then. So it was like, obviously, unfortunately, people passing away, so you'd have to go and get the document and then send it out. And so I'd have to go out still sometimes, which was weird.
Yeah.
It
was a weird moment, right? Every episode I have, it's then COVID. Yeah. And it's like, do you remember that?
That weird thing that happened to us all.
But I do think that for some people, it was the worst moment of their life, and some it was the most pivotal moment of their life.
Yeah, I think it was probably both for me.
Which is what it was for myself. It was when it was like, what are you doing? When everything just stops.
Yeah.
It's almost like meditation. When you do stillness meditation and everything's just, you start to see everything.
Yeah.
And you're like, shit, what is it that I'm actually doing with my life?
Yeah.
And after then that's where purpose came in, because you had time to actually sit with it, or you were someone who hated that you were sitting with everything and did whatever. So ran through substances, which I also have done as well. But who on earth for you? So how was it for you when all this was going down?
I'd say I just wanted to, I kind of like enjoyed the fact that I just had to build everything again. It was kind of exciting because like I said, it wasn't about the money, it was the fun.
Yeah.
It was the targets, it was the metrics, it was the achievements. And maybe there was a degree of me that you always have this imposter syndrome thinking, well, how much of that was luck? It's like, well, you couldn't have had a decade of luck, but you know, I'm still gonna see if that was the case. It's longer than that, actually. It was like, I'm still going to give it a go again, and this would be fun. And I lost some friends through the process. You know, there were some unfortunate things that happened with the businesses, and people didn't see things correctly the same way, which is okay, and it happens. But yeah, I just went back into building everything again. But yeah, it's strange because I seem to isolate myself a lot when I go into that mode. It's kind of like I detach from the world. And I'd say I've been told that I'm quite good at holding space and holding people. And when people need me, I'm very, very good at being there. When they don't, less so. Am I that good?
So the little things.
I'm a bit more of a level 1 kind of guy, emergency. If it's like less than that, it's like, you don't really need me to do that.
I'm there if you need me.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I got shit to do.
Yeah. And, I really struggle with that. I really don't enjoy that about me. But I'm learning to adapt and change, hopefully. More
You're mindful of it. Celebrate the fact that you have, because nothing changes without the awareness. Can't change anything if we're not aware of it.
And then I also think that then a lot of the things that are created when I'm in those states are really useful for other people, such as SoulBank. And although that came from a degree of, turmoil and trauma during a period as well, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes maybe we all believe that we're in our own little world and what we're doing, and we believe obviously we're the most important thing in the world is what we do.
We're the main character.
We're just not, but we are at all.
It's that paradox of we are and we're not at the same time. I love that, man. Let's play with it.
And that moment every day. No.
Oh, I'm
bouncing.
It's the no. It's what makes this
check
so
myself
fun. If we're going to use that
who
word.
do I think I am?
Who on earth?
Who on earth?
So have we started having the more interest in, because you obviously at some point to open SoulBank you must be getting interested in the mindfulness, the growth, the healing, the trauma recognition.
I'd say that happened when I probably maybe like 2.5 years ago I really started to want to be a better person, I think. And I think I've always wanted to be. Like I've always been like inside quite a soft soul. And can be quite loving. And I think that's how people would kind of describe me. But then I've always had this exterior that I suppose is always this odd overarching responsibility where I think my job is more than what actually my role is to play in things. And that's, my own issues, I suppose, and what I battle with and why I think that I don't know. But I'm working through that in therapy. And I just wanted to be a better person for the people around me. And I felt, how can I do that? And then that's probably when I wanted to really start to realize, like, why am I never happy? Because the first thing I need to do is understand, like, why do I feel this need to want all of... I remember having a conversation about... I was talking about numbers in a business. And I was really focused on these numbers, but people didn't get it that I didn't care about the numbers, because as long as I've got enough money to like buy my lunch and my breakfast, I don't really give a shit. I just don't.
If the needs are sorted.
And I'm lucky because I know that no matter what, I can probably work hard enough to achieve it because I've done it enough times. Like we say, it can't be chance all the time. Who knows, it might be.
You could be the luckiest son of a bitch on the planet.
Might be on that doorstep in 6 months, you know what I mean? But it'll be what it'll be. And I think... I just wanted to become a better person for the people around me.
Was there anything we've missed, by the way?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's always going to be bits like I said, we can't be here for 5 days. But yeah, I just wanted to be a better human, I think.
What was the first thing that started? Because obviously for myself, it was more actually the physical side, just going to the gym, eating healthier, not drinking. What was it first for yourself?
I really wanted to uncover what it was that stopped me really ever feeling happy.
Okay.
Because I feel like that turns into other things. That's kind of what links back to SoulBank. But I feel like when you feel like you can't be happy, well, these traits and these things come out of you that aren't necessarily that attractive. I don't just mean attractive to other people. I mean just unattractive qualities. Because it's like, well, either you're really low energy to be around, for one, which isn't winning, as in winning for people, or you will make decisions that aren't healthy because they're not the right decisions. You're not conscious. You're not really trying to think about it.
It's not from a centered, balanced place.
And, I've really worked on, tried to have more contribution. Everything was always about contribution to me. It was about connection. But I just fail at connecting properly or consistently connecting because my brain is so distracted. And I was deep down inside not feeling probably that worthy, and then that would reflect on other people because if I feel like that, then controlling mechanisms come out, all the rest of it, all the other ugly traits come out. So
would it be happy the word you're looking for, or content?
Content,
because you can be content with pain, content with suffering and discomfort.
Yeah, and I think I even got to that point, and it sounds really quite like I was being a victim, but I literally got to a point I thought, well, maybe this is just me. And maybe my purpose in life is just to be a bit more of a vessel. Maybe I'm a creator, and maybe that's what I am, and that's all I will be. And maybe I should just be really, really good at that. And I should just create things and pass them on to other people. And maybe that's a unique skill, and maybe that is, I'm really blessed to have that skill, and that's what it is. And other elements of contentness or happiness, they're not meant to be on my my path. And I'd say that as I went further and further on the journey, then I was looking at, I had somebody who was around me who was very close to, who was having similar challenges. And then I was noticing more and more on other people having challenges. I suppose that's when the other stuff like the ADHD and different things started to flare up and started to notice. And then it was different medications, different things, all of that stuff. But the truth is, and going back to it, I suppose at that point in time, when I started to meditate, which I go to the Buddhist center, and
this is the one in town.
Yeah, beautiful space, beautiful people, and I just felt calmer. I felt more conscious. I felt more in control. My nervous system felt more regulated. I felt more like me. More like me when, I used to dance, I suppose.
That fully present state again. I think that's what meditation actually is.
A warm present state. And more me, like, it was all about fun. It was all about, because I do like fun. I do like balance. I do like that's that connection, that warmth, that element. That is what life's about. I struggle with it sometimes because I can't be present enough. But, I try, and I try more and more and more.
There is no
I'm learning. Yeah. Yeah. Do or do not. There is no try. For the people listening, we were joking about
We were
that.
doing a little Yoda
It's
joke.
Yoda.
Yeah.
It's actually my alarm clock, which is ironic.
Oh, you weren't taking the piss. It
It actually is my alarm clock, yeah.
So I'm the biggest nerd you'll find,
Yeah.
so that's
No,
that.
it really
I like
is.
you even more
It
now.
really is. I've had it for like about 10 years. Love it.
But I can see something's coming out of you when you're talking about just this warmth and this presence. Because I believe the divine masculine is the presence, but then the divine feminine is the unconditional love that comes when all the blocks are released through just relaxing into that presence.
100%. 100%. And I think understanding, the masculine properly is so important. And men often don't do that. Men just don't share enough. And I think that's so important. And I'm hoping that this space will provide shelter for that as well. And I think, working on your true values, your integrity, everything that sits around that, they're some of the most important things to really become the best being, strongest individual that you can become.
Well, I found with the meditation. Sorry, go on. I was just going to say, with the meditation, when you learn that you can sit with everything, and you are not at the mercy of a sensation, these things stop having the power over you that they want to. The integrity, well, is my intuition telling me that's my truth? No, and then I will not do it, or I will do it. It's as simple as that. There's no more excuses. There's no more arguing with the self, and that IFS, the internal family system, the parts of you are no longer discordant and battling. They're all right.
And also, why did you do it? Because we are going to make mistakes. We are human.
Understanding the patterns.
And it's like, why did I do that? How can I not do that? Why did I feel that I needed to be controlling, or why was I so all these different things. Why did my nervous system flare up in that situation? And for me, I always try to center back to the thing that I mentioned to you earlier. Everyone's just a human. Everyone's just trying. No one means ill. No one wakes up really and wants to be horrible to people. There's something that sits underneath that. Nobody wakes up and wants to do a bad job at work. It's not who we are. Unless you're a psychopath, that can be slightly different. But there's a small percentage of those. And I think that the general human race, we want to be good.
Well, I heard
most of the badness comes from because we're not being good, or we feel that we're not being good. It's not that we're not. We feel like it. We feel like we're not being true. And being true, being honest is scary. So going back to if there is anything scary, that is scary.
Sharing who you really are at the risk of it being rejected.
Yeah. Saying all this and people listening, that's,
it takes bravery to truly tell people.
Edgy.
To tell who you are. Sometimes, I might do a poem and I'll literally be shaking. It's only a poem, but I've allowed these most vulnerable parts to channel truly, but then I've offered it to somebody.
Yeah.
And it's that bravery of saying and then sitting with, and if they don't like it, it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
This episode wasn't for the listeners. It was actually for you. That's what Who on Earth's about. I know you said when you went to the toilet, megalomaniac. No, it's about you getting a chance to share who you are. And hopefully, because we are so unique, but also so connected, like you said, ubiquitous traits through all of us, people will resonate.
Yeah.
And then they're going to, rather than just come down to SoulBank. Oh, right, I get him now. I want to come down for a far more greater reason than just, what's that place about? I've seen a few posters. That's why I was so passionate about getting you on, because Nigel, Craig, who we've already had on, Natalie spoke so highly of you, and I respect them. So who's Jamie? So SoulBank comes about then, does it? Through this love for...
I feel that I was searching during the time, and when I tried the different medication and the different things, when I was trying to find a way to calm my mind more and more. It was the meditation, and then I had a period of time where that was really challenging and pretty dark for me. And I think from that really dark moment, I sought therapy, which I'd never done in my whole life. And like I said, I got forced to see a counsellor when I was a kid as part of a court condition. But other than that, it's I'd never gone and seen a counsellor. And I'd seen a few in this, in the last year and a half.
Okay.
Because I was trying to become a better person for the people around me at the time. And I think, and now, obviously, and I think that was just such a huge step for me. Because then you are becoming as vulnerable really as you can be. And there'd probably never been a human being in a room where I'd actually been completely honest with.
Okay.
Even me. Because I hadn't played through it enough. I hadn't talked through it enough. I hadn't recollected things as factual as they were.
Well, lying's out of fear, isn't it?
Yeah, but I was so determined to try and become better.
Get a fist bump for that.
And yeah, it was interesting, but I was trying these different things, and then I was right, so my body, and it was only this year actually, it was in January, I met Jamie Rowland at Yoga Republic and wanted to go, and I was doing some one-to-ones there with him, and I was I need to get my body in that nice, spacious place. And I think after meeting and going through this space, me and Jamie were talking about different things, and we were talking about yoga and accessibility, and I was thinking, I feel like all of this is so inaccessible. People might hate me from the industry listening to this, but I feel like it's you have to hit your lowest point
Right.
To get the confidence.
And then you look
to go and do it.
Right.
And it's like, and I'd say a reasonably confident guy. I don't really, mind too much. And, Thai boxing was a big part of my life, which we didn't pass through, but, opened a gym with my friend in Stockport who's like amazing. And like, it's similar with that, walking into the space. We tried, we used to always try and do it so it was so friendly when people come in. And it's very difficult, quite intimidating, but that gets people off the streets and it turns young, challenging teenagers into, it allows them to release, but also get that respect and work in that structure that they might not have.
Discipline and all that.
Yeah, and the job that Panacos does over there at All Powers. It's amazing what he does for the people there. And I feel similar about this environment. It's like, that is amazing for people to go and do. This is amazing for people to do. But you shouldn't have to hit
rock bottom,
the depths of despair in order to be willing or confident to go in. And people will say, oh, well, it's not just that. It's like, well, why didn't I do it before?
Wasn't in your face, was it? Why is everyone not eating healthily? Because there's barely anything in the shops. You have to go and find Unicorn, which is where I shop, if your mates have told you about it. And otherwise, you're at the mercy of their health section.
Yeah.
And by the way, that means there's a lot of unhealthy sections. So I think the reason I'm getting so worked up is because one of my purposes is to alleviate the suffering in myself so I can show others how to do it, so we can all just live more peacefully. Yeah. And I believe it's being that bridge between the mainstream and the esoteric. And that's what it seems like you have a passion for as well.
100%. Because, looking back at the jobs and the people that work for me, and, so many of them were happy, but they were just below the line of like contentment and happiness. And it was like, I believe that meditation and being in this space and giving your brain the ability just to breathe, giving yourself the moment that you deserve on a daily basis and the love that you should give to yourself, that we don't do as a society because we're so caught up in this rat race, brings them back into line with that contentment, that happiness, potentially where they could feel more whole. And when you're in that state, you treat people differently. You make different decisions. You come from a completely different space, and it's a beautiful thing. And for me, that was the intention behind SoulBank, but it was to try and make it a bit more scientific, so it made it a bit more palatable for people. Because
that's the religion of the day, isn't it? Science.
Well, a fact is a fact, right? Where if you say, listen, if you come and do this, it's going to be really good, and
it's been measured.
It's still seen as a very like hippie, esoteric type style flow and spiritual, which is cool if that's what you want.
But it's not going to attract the masses.
No, and that's why the aim is that SoulBank is more focused on that, and that is what, our meditation is secular. We don't talk about any type of anything that's not. That's what we do. It's all secular meditation, which is one of the reasons why we've introduced the embodied meditation with the music. And the aim is that it's so crazy out there that you can't just walk off that street, as we can hear. We've been trying to get the sound.
You might have heard the...
Yeah, trying to get the sound right because of the noise. And this is a quiet building. You can't go from that to this. Can't do it. It's too much. And then all that happens is people sit and they go, right. They leave and they go, it's awful. I cannot meditate. It's a horrible thing. Of course it is. You sat with all your thoughts. All of that is coming to you.
Well, one thing I do at the start of each class is shake it out. What sounds need to be released? Give yourself permission just to get rid of that surplus energy.
But do you know how uncomfortable that is for people? Shaking it out. That's the problem.
I can see it.
I get what you're saying, and slowly you can get them into it. But the aim was that music, and for people that love music, it naturally just slows and calms the body. And music for me is obviously a big part of my whole life. And there's, the release that I used to get from breathwork and then the reset in my nervous system was insane. It still is. We had one last Monday where we were practicing.
That's one of the things you were telling me about. You had the mind monitors. That's the
Muse, for the brainwave.
The brainwave,
so you can track the brainwave.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so every week now we do a science study, and we're trying to figure out what is the best way to deliver every session. What is the way that in this city centre we can take you from what is and calm you down as much as possible and get you into lower alpha, theta, get you into those brainwaves that are really going to start to give you some space. That's what we're working on. So yeah, every week. So this week was breath work. And it was amazing because we were, it was all teachers that were in the session.
Well, Craig was one of them from
Correct.
episode
And
2.
Nigel,
and
Nigel as well.
We're going to get Nigel on. I've got to, and I'm going to get Natalie on as well.
They're all
We're getting them all
beautiful
on.
human beings, and I think so you definitely should. And their stories are also beautiful as well, all very different. And yeah, we all had insane releases because we all felt so safe. And Nigel and Craig have known each other for like a decade, and they'd never had breath together.
Really?
They're both, obviously teach consciously, but no one had really done it.
Even at the new TRANSMUTE studio, Craig did Kundalini, stopped, and then Nigel came and did breath and
but
sound.
they've never done it together.
No way. Didn't think about that.
So, and they won't mind me sharing because we're all very open with this stuff, but our releases were just insane because it was such a safe space and it was just us. But the impact that it has on the brainwave, the stuff we were learning, it's amazing. I won't share it all now because we'll share it over time.
Yeah. How long have we
got?
got?
Well, no, but only that.
It's only an hour 20.
Yeah,
it's one of the shorter ones.
So yeah, but there's all cool stuff that we'll be releasing and telling people about with regards to all of that. And I think...
And we will put a link for all the SoulBank stuff, and anything you want us to, we'll put it in the description so the guys can find it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the aim for SoulBank is to be... It's one of the rare places that we are trying to deliver as many different style classes as possible for all. We will be putting on classes for people that are less abled, troubled teenagers. These are some of the things that we intend to do as time goes on. But at the moment, we're really just trying to get as many people in as possible just to try it.
Yeah.
And I think the music, which now in the embodied meditation, I also incorporate breath to shift people into the parasympathetic nervous system. And it's really just trying to slow people down, just bring the body to a much slower pace. And it's through stages. So each song will mean something different. It will do something different to the body, whether it be releasing oxytocin or not. That's the intention behind the embodied meditation. So it's slightly different. I'm not actually teaching any at the moment. We've just got the normal beautiful
Well, I'd love to come down and just check it out.
Deliver some now,
I mean, I told you I put an ecstatic dance on last night, and it's just when you realise these are just energies expressing, and it does straight away. You're like, and what you're having for tea, it doesn't mean anything in that moment, and it's beautiful.
And I think that's the bridge for me, is that to meditation. And Craig and Natalie teach some beautiful meditation, just like guided meditation without any music, etc. during the week. That's what all the meditation sessions are. But our intention is just to put more and more and more on. And like you were saying about the shaking, we've got a shake and dust that's going to be on, that Charlotte's going to be delivering.
I think I'm going to be at SoulBank a lot.
Jiva Mukti with Sophie, and the somatic movement with Rachel. So, Nigel delivers the beautiful sound session.
I've been to Nigel's,
doing the conscious connected breath work. We're really lucky to have some amazing teachers. And Natalie's, vinyasa and such, just all beautiful, beautiful classes. And I think we're going to build on that and just build the timetable over between now and Christmas. But the aim is to make it as accessible as possible. And people can just come in and do whatever they want. And I always say it's like, it's your practice. If you decide you just want to sleep or you want to do cartwheels,
that's empowering then, isn't it?
Do whatever you want.
Like, trust
take
yourself.
The time for you.
Yeah,
that's the most important thing. This is your time. Have some time for you. Forget about everything else. Just be in you for a minute. And I suppose, wrapping it all up with everything that's said is, this is just hard work for me. So this is nothing to do with money, and the money from the centre will go back into the centre and go back into the centre. It's not about anything to do with that, where my other businesses have always been that. So it's a very unique thing.
How is that for you?
Strange. Because I'm still trying to make sensible decisions to keep it safe. And make sure that then I'm just not paying for it, which obviously is what's happened and how it's been built. I've just done it personally.
Because it used to be a bank, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's called SoulBank.
Well, and the name SoulBank, and the reason why it was put together in that way is that I believe that the soul is a bank. And you can only take so much from the soul in an unconscious way. And after that, you need to give back to it. And this is where you can give back to your soul. This is where you neutralize and you balance out the being that you are. And for me, that's what SoulBank is. It's a place where you can give back. And like any bank, you can come and take, but you've also got to come and give back to neutralize your account. And that's how I feel your soul is. And, I think we were talking, I suppose, I will always feel like my soul is in debt. And that's my work here.
think it's beautiful, man. And I always give the guest a chance if there's anything right now that you'd like to share, a final message even.
I think just be brave and try the practices. You know, people don't need to come to a space like this to try the practices. But for me, it's really been a life-changing, altering moment. You know, the people that I've met, the beautiful people, and hopefully the impact on the people that are around me that are close to me. I think it's definitely had a positive effect that I could never have comprehended, more than anything, and all the things that I could have made and achieved and everything. The moments that are here, the meeting the people, even being vulnerable, which is something I would never do historically. So, yeah, showing any kind of emotion expression was something I did not do for many years. Probably why I'm so emotional now.
It's like when you hold the hose pipe.
So apologies for the emotional
Don't
moment.
apologise ever for how you feel.
But yeah, I think and you know what? Every person, for me, is so much more than they think they are. And
all the wise sages saying to know thyself. That's all it is.
Like just try. I've met even so many people in this arena, and they're like, "Oh, well, I couldn't do a studio. I couldn't have done that." And it's like, no, you really could. You really can.
You know what I say to those people? It's not that you can't. It's that you might struggle to. Because can't means, well, don't even try then. I couldn't, so why try?
Also, they probably won't, you know, the struggle, it is a struggle. It's always a struggle.
Which is fine.
Like anything that you do, right? If you care about it and you want to make it better, it's not going to be straightforward. It's not going to be linear. If it is linear, you don't care enough.
And you don't grow in the comfort zone.
And I just wish that people would be slightly braver. I know it's easier to say, but I'm coming from a position where I probably shouldn't have been. And, you know, I pushed through. And even in what I would call the last year or so or two, like some of the most difficult parts for me, it's a beautiful thing like this has come from it. And even if there's pain, even if there's darkness, that can often just turn to pure light. And I think, know that things always come over time. I think know that you can always pretty much achieve anything you put your mind to. It's just, we don't fail, we learn. Just don't be shy to fail. I love to fail. Because I'm just learning all the way along.
Well, the most successful people have just got steps of failure that got them there.
100%. Why do we fall? So we learn to pick ourselves back up.
Batman,
right?
very good.
Tattooed on the back of my thigh.
Have you?
That quote.
We're going to be friends.
Yeah. And I just think, my one thing would be, come and try, be brave. Just try everything. Because we're only here for a short period of time.
One life.
And don't be fearful of the woo-woo, the people, the uncomfortable states that you might feeling, like you were saying about the shaky, and all these things that can make you feel uncomfortable. Just try it. You know?
Well, that's why I want to get someone like you on, someone like a Craig on, even for them to see me. I'm just Michael from Manchester, Jamie from Kent, Craig from wherever. It's like we're not these Dalai Lama type people or these people who have gone to the mountains of Nepal. We're you, and we've just found something that helps us. Do you want to come and see if it works for you too?
100%.
So, guys, sorry, go on.
No, and it might be uncomfortable at the beginning.
That's okay. It will be. Yeah. It's meant
and
to be.
That's okay. You know, looking at yourself is a difficult thing. But honestly, once you've done it perpetually, and it might seem that at times it can make me feel quite emotional, but that is a positive thing. It's like I can feel. I couldn't feel before.
You can feel.
So now I can. And it's like, now I realise what things are important to me. And, you know, the advice I would give is, there's certainly things that I have left too late, and I think don't be that person. You know,
well, there's a phrase I love: "If not now, then when?"
Yeah, definitely.
Did you want to do a little final offering, or do you think that was?
I think it'll be too messy.
Right. So for SoulBank, we'll put all the details so everybody, the listeners and the viewers, can see what it is about, but they can actually come down in person.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure you'll be here at a lot of time as well, but. Thank you for coming on the show. I speak for everybody to say.
Asking me. Appreciate
thanks for being brave and being vulnerable and sharing with us.
Cheers.
Peace and love.
Thank you.
What a lovely chap. Is that alright, our Jamie, innit? And if you want to go check him out or any of the cool stuff at SoulBank, and I'll put the links in the description. Like, really is cool to see a guy using the science side and the nurture, a bit of science and nurture, and just seeing how that can help you expand your awareness, heal the traumas, doing it with a fun. I want to do a dancer. I was going to do a dancer, and we're talking about it, maybe this or another studio. You know how I get down with them dances? I think it'd be great. You should see the place. It's like a cathedral. It's got such a beautiful building. I tell you what, actually, while I'm talking about dances, you know, TRANSMUTE Studio, I do, if you don't know, by the way, I do Liberation Ecstatic Dance. This one on the 2nd of May at TRANSMUTE Studio is going to be Liberation Primal. So with that one, I'm going to be inviting you to just release the civilized self for one night and get in touch with that untamed, that primal, that raw, instinctual part of yourself that gets caged by all this conditioning, just letting it roar, letting it howl, letting it beat its chest on the dance floor. And if you've not seen how I get down, you will not be disappointed. So yeah, feel free to come and check me out as well. My links are going to be in the description. Anything meditation-wise, one-to-ones, classes. We've got the dances that I'm putting on, but there's also the floating meditation journey. The next one's Tree of Life on the 10th of May. All that stuff will be at the website. I'll put the links for myself and for TRANSMUTE Studio, where you can see I'm a big fan. I do a lot of the work there as well. So TRANSMUTE Studio's details will be there for you. Now, how about I let you know about this brilliant double act that we had down to Manchester called the Blue Lions, the Sikh warriors who do like kirtan and deg ceremonies, loads of beautiful things that they're doing. And they're Sikh warriors who've got they've got the look, they've got the stories, and they've also got the talent to back it up. So I wanted to get them on the show. So after we'd done our ceremony, the kirtan music with Nikki Cohen's Manchester Yoga Central, I asked them if they'd come on the show. And they did. So episode 9 is going to be them two, Sikh warriors from the Blue Lions, coming and telling us about their culture, what they believe in. And trust me, this is one of the ones where I'm like, top tier. Can't wait to share it with you. But whilst you're waiting for that to come out, why not check out Craig Seaton, who's done a lot of work with Mr. Jamie Alaise, or even go and check out things like Nikki Cohen. She does a lot of similar work as well. So yeah, guys, plenty of episodes. Go down to the Meditation with Michael website. You'll see them all on there. But otherwise, if you could remember I said how much that helps me out. It really does. Just a little, there we go. And if you think this might be somebody else's cup of tea, I would love it if you could share it. It's just about sharing and caring and connecting, and all of us just figuring out how to go on this journey in a skillful, joyful, in a joyful way. Otherwise, guys, you know I love you. Tune in next time for the Blue Lions, but until then, very, very, very on it today. Until then, peace and love.